Good morning, everyone. It's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique. Last month we did a project on the alluringbeadboutique.com blog page, and it was a sunburst necklace. And in one part of the pattern that I made for putting all the components together, I created a little oval effect for the beaded chain using some flat herringbone with two different size beads. This is an example of doing some tubular herringbone with two different size beads. Right here, these are some 8/0s, and the inside beads are 11/0s. And I created this cute little oval component. Then I stitched a beautiful 12mm pearl inside of it. My project for this month on the blog is the pearls on the half shell. And here is what the earrings look like. And I used the same technique. I did some tubular herringbone with 8/0s in this beautiful bluish hematite color. The 11/0s are kind of a little bit hidden in here, and they are some antique silver 11/0s. But for the pearls on the half shell, you also add a little 15/0 accent bead. And those are the bright silver beads you see going up through here. And it gives that little extra layer of dimension to the beadwork. And then I stitched onto this pearl, and then I do some wire work here to complete the earrings. And in this project, I'm going to show you guys how to make this exact thing, only I'm going to do it on a larger pearl for a pendant. For the project, the materials list for the project are as follows. You're going to need some 8/0 seed beads. These are check glass beads, and they are just a metallic hematite. The 11/0 beads are a Toho antique silver galvanized. And my 15/0s are permanent finish Toho aluminum. Going to need a head pin. If you're going to be doing the earrings too, you'll need 3 of the head pins. For the pendant, I'm using a 14mm large hole night blue Swarovski pearl. And for the earrings, I use size 2 12mm. On the earrings, I use 4mm of these just little metallic crystals. And these are nothing special, folks. I'm pretty sure they're Chinese. They may be some other country, but they are not Preciosa. They are not Swarovski. We have this beautiful little drop and a 6mm round in a metallic silver. It's antique silver. They're really pretty. You're going to need some wire, and depending on the beads you use, you'll want to make sure that the wire will fit through your pearl after it already has some beading thread stitched through it too. So 22 gauge has been working really good for me. And this is just some silver bead-alon German wire, 22 gauge. You'll also need, for the ear wires, some 20 gauge wire. I'm going to be using some 20 gauge sterling silver for my earring wires, but we'll get into that in a later project. You're going to need some beading thread and a needle. I have a size 11 beading needle, and I have some .006 Fireline black satin thread already threaded onto my needle. It doesn't take a lot, maybe like a little over a foot, foot and a half, something like that, to do the pendant or each earring with. So go ahead and get everything ready, and we'll go ahead and get started. Before we start, I want to point out a couple of things about the earring here and the 12mm pearl. The first time I had made this project a long time ago, and I sold it, so I really only had some photographs to go by to redo the project for you guys. So on the first project, I had used only 12 rows of my tubular herringbone. But when I went to try to construct this time, I changed my mind. Here's a cute little thing I want to show you. On the end of each one of my tubes, you see this beautiful little right angle weave unit of 15/0 seed beads that closes off the end of the tube. So that's something I'm going to show you how to do, because it's really cute. But in this instance, I wanted my wire, when it came down through the beaded component and the pearl and comes out this end. I wanted my wire to be behind that right angle weave unit, so I wound up having to change it up and make 14 rows of the tubular herringbone for these smaller pearls. So on this larger pearl, it leads me to believe I'm going to need, instead of 14 rows, I'm going to be doing 16 rows of my tubular herringbone. So I've got my thread out, and I'm going to start by picking up 4 of my 8/0 beads. I'm going to carry them down towards the tail thread here. I'm going to pass back up through 2 of those, the very bottom 2, here by the tail thread. I'm going to pull those through, and I'm going to give myself a little bit more tail here, just enough to tie a knot with. And then now I'm exiting the 2 beads to the right. I'm going to come down through the 2 beads to the left. And then just to cinch this thread in position really well, I'm going to go back up the 2 beads on the right. Now pull nice and snug. And that secures my thread really well and keeps my ladder stitch beads from coming apart so easily. And then I'm going to come right back down these 2 beads on the left again to get into position to add my next 2 beads. So now I have 2 sets of 2 beads here sitting side by side, and those are going to give me the only beads I need for my 8/0 column. So now I have to add some beads for my 11/0 column. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my 11/0s. My tail thread, or my working thread, is exiting the bottom here of these left side beads. I'm going to come back through those 2 beads from top to bottom, and I'm going to pull these 2 little beads into place. Then I need to get into position, so I'll pass right back up those 2 beads. Make sure you get in both of them. Like that. And I need to do that one more time. I need to add 2 more of my 11/0 beads. So now I'm exiting the top. So I'm going to pick up 2 11/0s, and I'm going to come back through these 2 on the base from bottom to top. Then I'm going to pull those in beside the other 2. Then I'm going to pass right back down through those beads from top to bottom. And then I'm going to pull. So now I have 2 sets of 2 11/0 beads. So that is enough to make my inside column once I form my tube of my 11/0 beads. Now I'm going to form my tube. So I'm coming out of the bottom of these 11/0s. I'm going to go from bottom to top through those 2 8/0s there. And when I pull, I'm going to fold these beads over so they sit like this. Then I'm going to pull my thread. Now, I'm going to come down through the 2 11/0s I started from, like that. Then I'm going to go right back up through those 2 8/0 beads right there that my tail thread is exiting. And I'm going to pull. Then I'm going to pull everything nice and secure, just like that. And we're ready to do some herringbone. And because I started my ladder stitch with 2 beads each time, that already gives me 2 rows of 2 rows on my columns. So now I only have to do 14 more rows of herringbone stitch. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my 8/0 beads. I'm going to pass down through the top bead to the right. My working thread is exiting on the left because I'm left-handed. So I'm going to pass down just through 1. And then I'm going to position those beads so that they sit on top of these below. And it looks like a little column. I'm going to roll this around just a little bit to the side. I'm going to pick up a 15/0 bead. I'm going to pass up through just the top 11/0 bead. And make sure my little 15/0 sits in there looking decent, which right now it wasn't. You can feel it pop when it pops into place where it needs to be. So now I'm ready to do a row of 11 O's. So I'm coming out of the top 11 O on the left. I'm picking up 2. I don't like that one. And I'm going to stitch down the 1 bead to the right here. Pull that. Make sure my beads sit like they should, looking nice and straight on top of the ones below. I'm going to roll it around and pick up a 15-0. Now this is the end of our round. So this time, instead of stepping up 1, we're going to step up through the 2 8-0s. So we're going to finish up by, we're coming out of that bead here, second one down. So we have to go up through the second one down, plus the one we added at the beginning of the round. Then I pull that little 15-0 into position, just like I did on the other side. It's pretty simple. So basically, I'm going to show you a couple more. Now we're back around to doing our 8-0. So I'm going to pick up 2 8-0s. I'm coming out on the left, so I'm going to go down 1 bead on the right. So here we go. Down 1, roll it over, and pick up the 15-0. Then we stitch up 1 of our 11-0s. We pick up 2 11-0s. We stitch down 1 on the right there. We pick up our 15-0 and we stitch up 2. So it's down 1, up 1, down 1, up 2. That's the mantra. And pull the little 15-0 in. So again, pick up 2, down 1. Pick up our 15-0, up 1. Pick up our 11-0s, down 1. Sometimes you have to finagle your beads, make them sit nice. Pick up our 15-0 and up 2. Now, as you work, you want to make sure your little 15-0s line up in a nice little line on the side. Just like that. All right, one more time. So we're coming out of our 8-0s. We're at the beginning of our round. So we're going to pick up 2, and it's down 1 to the right. Maybe to the left if you stitch in that direction. Pick up a 15, up 1. Pick up the 11s, down 1, pick up the 15 and up 2. And that's all there is to it. And I'm going to keep on doing those same steps until I have 16 beads in each row. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have to do 10 more. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me do all these. I'll get my 16 rows done, and then I'll meet you guys back, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do right after that. Okay, so I've got my 16 rows done. And if you'll notice along the side that you'll have your little 15-0 sitting in between each row except for this last one. We're going to fix that, and at the same time we're going to set ourselves up to do the little right angle weave unit on the end of our columns. So we're going to use 15-0s here. We're coming out of the left side of our 8-0 column. Pick up a 15-0. We're going to go down 1 to the right. We're adding that bead in between the 2 beads of the column there. We're going to pick up a 15-0. And we're going to go up one here of our 11-ohs. We're going to correct that one spot where we needed that additional bead. Right there. We're going to pick up another 15-oh. We're going to go down one. And if the beads wiggle around a little bit, you can always just put your finger over them and give a little pull like that to straighten them back up. So now we have a 15-oh here between those two beads. We have a 15-oh here between the two beads of our 11-oh column. We're going to pick up one more 15-oh, and we're going to go up the one bead here of the 8-ohs. And that will add our little 15-oh that we needed on this side. So now we're all set with our 15-ohs along the sides of our two columns. And now we have these cute little 15-ohs sitting here in between the beads of our column on the 8-oh side and on the 11-oh side. So let's go through the one here on the 8-ohs. And I'm going to flip this around so you can see a little bit better. So now I'm going to pick up a 15-oh. And my thread is exiting here to the left. I'm going to go through the bead sitting on the 11-oh column right there, from left to right. I'm going to pull that into position, and I'm going to pick up one more 15-oh. So now my thread is exiting to the right. I'll need to go through the bead between my 8-ohs there, from right to left, and I'm having trouble seeing, but there we go. Just like that, and pull that through, and that creates that cute little right angle weave unit sitting right at the top of our beadwork. So I'm going to reinforce that just by passing through all the beads again in the proper order. Stitching through all four of those little beads one more time, and when I finish I should be exiting this bead between my 8-ohs here at the top. I think I got mine a little bit goofed up there, but I'm going to fix it right here. Make sure you're coming through that bead between the 8-ohs and not the side bead. And pull it all nice and snug and shape up your little right angle weave unit there at the top. So here's one, a side bead, one, and a side bead. Okay, so now we have that end done. So if you'll notice, we have a nice natural curve to this beadwork because we use two different size beads. And that's going to work to our advantage when we get ready to add our purl in like this. We're on this end and we need to get down to this end. If I'm coming out of this little 15-oh here between those two 8-oh beads. If I just simply sew down through all of my 8-oh beads, it could potentially pull my curve back this way. So I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm exiting from that bead between the two 8-ohs. I'm going to come down this side bead to the left, because my thread's exiting on the left of my little right angle weave unit. Then I'm going to cross over into the bead sitting between my two 11-ohs from left to right. And then I am going to simply stitch down through all of these 11-ohs here on the right, all the way down to the other end. And you're going to make sure that you don't skip any, or you'll have some exposed thread. So I'm going to pull that all the way down. You can see how that works to my advantage. And it pulls towards my curve like that. So now I'm coming out of this 11-oh here on the other end. I'm going to do the same thing I did just in a reverse to create my little right angle weave unit to cover up the end of my tube. So I'm coming out of this 11-oh on the left. I picked up a 15-oh. I'm going to go down one. Then I'm going to pick up a 15-oh and go up one. Actually, I'm not picking up a 15-oh here. I'm sorry. We already have our bead there. I'm going to come through this 15-oh that's already sitting here. Just like that. Sorry, guys. Lost my train of thought. Then I'm going to step up through that first 8-0. Now I'm going to pick up my 15-0. And I'm going to go down 1. 8-0 to the right. I'm going to come through the 15-0 on the side of the beadwork. I'm going to step up into the 11-0 right there. And then I can step over into the little 15-0 I just added in between the 11-0s here in the middle. Oops. And now I'm going to use these 2 beads we just added to do my right angle weave, and I only have to add 2 because I already have 2. So I flip my work around, and my working thread is exiting to the right of this little 15-0 between the gray beads. I picked up my 15-0. I go through the 1 between the blue beads from left to right. Then I'm just going to turn my work around because it's easier. I pick up my next 15-0. So I turn my work, the thread's exiting to the left, so I go through the bead here between the gray beads from left to right again. And now I have my cute little right angle weave unit there covering up this end of my beadwork. So now I just reinforce. I go up the bead on the side here, over through the bead sitting between the 2 blue beads. Come down the bead on the left-hand side right there. And then pass right back through the bead sitting between the gray beads one more time right there. And so that ends me up exiting to the right-hand side of that little 15-0, sitting between these 11-0s here. So then I'm going to step down this gray bead on the right. So I'm going to come right down into that tubular herringbone, just 1 bead. And I'm going to pull that through. And then I'm going to add my pearl. So kind of flip my work over a little bit so that now my working thread is on the left. So I'm going to pick up my pearl and pass right through it. So I'm exiting from that 11-0 on the left. I'm going to go up through the 11-0 on the opposite side of my beadwork on the right. And I'll pull that little pearl in. Then I'm going to come down the 11-0 right here. You can pass through your 15-0 if you'd like, but your working thread will actually position itself below it because the herringbone stitch was there first. Either way you want to, just come down the 1 bead on the left-hand side. And it doesn't matter if your pearl's a little bit loose. It actually helps you right now for it to be a little bit loose. You'll tighten it up in a second. Then we're going to come through the pearl again. So the last bead we were exiting was this 11-0 on the left. So we know we need to cross over and put a thread here on this bead. So I'm crossing right back over. I flip my work a little bit and going up through the bead on the other side. When I pull, I want to make sure my working thread doesn't get hung up down here. So let's bring it up and pull it all into position. And then we're going to start tightening the beadwork around the pearl. Just like that. And then I'm going to reinforce all of that one more time. This time I'll pass through the little 15-0 just to show you. You would just go through the 15-0 sitting there between the gray beads. We'll pull it through. We're going to come down 1 bead, one of our 11-0s here on the right. I'm going to come through this pearl, watching my working thread, make sure it doesn't get hung up on my beadwork. So I was on the right. So I need to come up the gray bead here on the left, pulling, making everything nice and snug. Can come through that 15-0 again on this end from left to right. Then I'll step down one of my 11-0s on the right. Come back through my purl. And this time I'm going to poke my needle towards the left up there. Then I'm going to come up the bead, the 11-0 here on the left. And that way I have reinforced and have 4 sets of threads going through my purl. Or whatever. And now it's fitting really nice and snug. And you can see that it looks pretty cute. Now we're exiting from that 11-0 here. I'm just going to come right into that 15-0 that's part of my right angle weave unit again. From left to right. I'm going to stitch up through the one on the right, on the side. Then I'm going to go through the one between my blue beads from right to left. Then I'm just going to move down through these blue beads over here on the right. Just a couple of beads, doesn't matter. So now we have it all finished here. So what we need to do is just end this thread. And you can weave it off or you can tie some half-hitch knots. I prefer to weave it off. So I'm exiting from this bead. Right there. So I would take it and move it across this way to see which bead I go up. So the thread is here. I'm going to go up the bead right in front of it. Just like that and pull. Then I'll need to see where it is on this side. It's coming out of the third bead, so I'll go down this third bead, back in the opposite direction. And just continue to do that up and down my little column of blue beads until I've done it enough to where I feel like the thread is really, really secure. You can also do a half-hitch knot. So right now my thread is sitting between those 2 blue beads. I'll just take my needle, go under an existing thread, poke it through, pull nice and slow till I have a loop, and stick my needle through the loop. Make sure the knot falls right there where the thread was exiting. So you could do it either way. And then all you would do is simply end the thread. So go ahead and weave your thread off or tie some half-hitch knots, and I'll meet you back and I'll show you guys how to finish this cute little project up.